Dr. Mark Changizi here with your Science Moment. Stop believing that these scientists, these public policy experts, know what they're doing. I'm going to talk to you today about one reason that I think we all tend to think that today's authorities know what they're doing. And part of that reason is we believe that we're on the other side of a qualitative transition technologically and scientifically. Our parents' generation and the grandparents and those folks were old-timey folks that didn't really get all these advancements that we today. Whereas we're on the other side of that. We have this much more privileged view of the nature of the universe and the nature of everything. And our authorities and scientific experts and public policy experts and so forth are just in a completely qualitatively different position than were those of a generation before. I think a lot of us have this feeling. We're in there's been this revolution and this revolution and that, and we're all part of that revolution, so we feel like we're just beyond where they were. And if you feel that way, well, you think, okay, well, maybe now science and technology and genetic engineering or whatever is trustworthy to let them instantiate their ingenious schemes on the nature of society and force us to do all sorts of things because they at least know what they're talking about. So even if you were a utilitarian, at least you say, well, at least, okay, they know what they're talking about. They're doing good scientifically based utilitarianism. Now, I'm a libertarian. I wouldn't believe that's a good argument in the first place, but nevertheless, even that's wrong. As we've seen, the interventions all failed even to narrowly do what they were supposed to do and had devastating side effects. And this is not surprising at all from my point of view. And I think as a scientist, and many scientists have a better read on just how bad science is relative to what the average person thinks it is, and just how bad medicine is relative to what the average person thinks. They think that these doctors are miracle workers. They're not. So I was thinking, what's a good way to illustrate the extent to which we're not in some qualitative new realm of scientific understanding at all? In fact, we're really still backwards. We're highly backwards people, and we probably always will be highly backwards people because ultimately we're humans with our human basic instincts, and to the extent that we go beyond that is because culture is evolving around us to fit us, as I've talked about. So here's a good kind of analogy that I'd like to make, and I think it might help seal this notion that we're not beyond our old-timey selves. Now, pre-Galilean. That's a great word that people use to say, oh, pre-Galilean, they didn't know anything about the universe, right? They thought that the Earth was the center of the universe. That's where geocentrism reigned. That means the center of the universe was the Earth, and and if you said anything against that, it was very bad, and eventually you could just have to take poisons and have to die, be executed in that way, like Galileo was. Now, what did Galileo actually show? Well, he showed that the sun was the center of the known universe with the planets, and the Earth is just one of many planets. Now, that sort of is a nice gestalt switch. You go, oh, holy crap, the Earth is not the center of the universe, the sun is, but it has very few practical consequences, right? It doesn't really matter. It creates a gestalt switch in your head, and it doesn't really change anything in terms of anybody in their everyday lives. So let me tell you another sense in which we still are pre-Galilean, but in a much deeper, richer a sense with many more consequences, and it's that we're still we still have zoocentrism. That's a nice way to say it. Zoocentrism. Right now, I claim that the whole world is human-centric. We believe that humans are special, just like they believe that the Earth was special, center of the universe. They believe that humans are special. We're biologically special. We're biologically distinct, biologically unique. Whereas a different kind of point of view, which is the one I've been arguing for the last 20 years, is zoocentrism. It's like, no, it's just, we're not special or privileged in any way biologically amongst the animal world. Now, there's two ways there's two different kinds of viewpoints that the average scientist and the average person out there may have about what it is that makes humans so special. And they're different, but they're still the same in the sense that humans are special. It's still human-centric. The first is that, well, we humans are not like animals because we're infinitely plastic and we can do all of these things. We can just learn. Indeed, it seems so. There's all the stuff that we can do in the world. And of course, I've argued in earlier books, Harnessed and Vision Revolution, the only reason that we're doing these weird things that animals don't do, like language and music and riding a horseback, or all the weird things that we do, is because we figured out ways of shifting and shaping those things so that they fit our native instincts that we did evolve for. So that view is wrong. And so folks like Steven Pinker have argued very effectively in his book Blank Slate that no, look, we're teeming with instincts just like all the other animals. All of we're just piles and piles of instincts, and we're smart because of those piles of instincts, but we're not in a qualitatively new realm compared to any of the animals. They're all piles of instincts, and as I've argued, to the extent that we've seemed to have broken beyond that is because language and arts shape themselves to tap into stuff that we're already good at hearing or seeing. And the other view is, rather than us being infinitely plastic, unlike the other animals which are filled with instincts, is that we have some special instinct. We have a language instinct. So here's where I think Steven Pinker's wrong. Steven Pinker's argued that what makes us special is in Chomsky and so forth, that we have this particular this instinct to have grammar and so forth. And I think that's all wrong. I think, no, it's not that we have an instinct for grammar. It's just that grammars have evolved and the writing systems have evolved. And all these different things have evolved to have the shapes of things that we're already good at processing. The sounds of speech sound like solid object physical events. The events amongst objects in the world that we already evolved to be great at processing. By virtue of language having culturally evolved to sound like those things, well, then it seems as if we have a language instinct, even though we don't per se do. So both of these views are human-centric. Either we're infinitely plastic, unlike all the other animals, or, okay, we're piles of instincts like them, but we've got these special instincts that they don't have. Those are the really key ones that matter. Neither of those are true. We're just piles of instincts, and we're just like all of the other ones. Where we have come to differentiate ourselves, as I've talked about before, is by virtue of cultural evolution, which harnesses us. Now, other than myself and a small number of other scientists arguing for this zoocentric point of view, the rest of the scientific world today is really one of those positions in terms of what human nature, in terms of human nature. It's one of those. Well, that puts them both in the human-centric camp, and I claim to you that's worse than being pre-Galilean. Because if you were pre-Galilean and if you said, look, the Earth is the center of the universe, so what? It doesn't affect any of your life. It's not going to change the extent to which you do anything in the world. It's just sort of this abstract notion of, it turns out that the Earth is going around the sun rather than the other way around. It doesn't really change anything. But if you believe that humans are special, humans are different, and you might disagree about exactly what that is, well, then you think, well, we humans are completely able to control our world. We're completely able to do all these fancy scientific things because we're not animals at all. You start having that attitude, you're going to start making the kinds of mistakes that folks have made with these interventions, thinking that their ingenious schemes can actually work. And even worse, the regular folks believe them because they believe that we're in this new technological scientific age where we can do that kind of stuff. But no, almost all of the scientists out there are still not zoocentric, which is the equivalent of heliocentric. They still believe humans are special. Don't believe that. Right? Humans aren't special. Humans are just animals. And if you can get your head in that position, when folks start telling you that, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to give this many injections to this many people every this many months, and we're going to send everybody all these fantastic ingenious schemes with their authoritarian ideas, you should sit back and say, look, I'm going to treat you heuristically as if you and all of us are pre-Galilean old-timey folks. And once I do that, I say, I'm not going to believe anything that you just said, because we really are those old-timey folks, and stop believing we're beyond that. And that was your science moment.